So, welcome back. Short view from the booth. The players are getting ready for round one. Our feature match for round one is Sebstian Fiala-Ibitz, who we saw at the
Deck building.
building. And he's playing against his Austrian fellow, Andreas Mikula, who is one of those guys who is at close to every standard Friday night Magic tournament. He qualified close to Vienna, and saw him practicing sealed decks yesterday. We know the deck from Sebstian Fiala-Ibitz.
It's red-white, super aggressive, I would say.
Pretty aggressive. And we have the deck list from Andreas Mikula here. He is playing a blue-white. Not sure why we don't see the decks. So
Now
now
we have it.
he has a nice removal suit.
Yes, he has Angelic Purge, Declaration, and bound by Moonsilver. And
Yeah.
he's even splashing red, as you
For-
can, for Burn from Within. That's the blaze.
With a warped landscape and 2 mountains. So, and the handshake, and the players will lead off. So, only from the deck lists, who do you think is the favorite in this game?
From seeing the deck list, I think that Andreas Mikula should be favored. He has a good curve and he's playing the more defensive creatures. He has 2 Seagraph Scabs in his deck, which are 2 mana 1/3,
But he's forced to take a mulligan here.
and Sebstian is also
Sebstian
taking a
is
mulligan.
joining him to keep things fair.
Also, as said, he has a lot of removal, but the good thing for Sebstian here is that the white removal is mainly sorcery speed, and in blue there is no bounce spell waiting for him, but he doesn't know that. There's only one gun missing waiting and a Stormrider Spirit as a flash spell. But the spell that could help Andreas Mikula win this match is probably Tenacity.
Oh, this
It's
card
just-
is insane. If you
just-
have a few creatures out, it's a 4 mana instant that gives your team +1/+1 and lifelink,
and
you untap
untaps
it.
them.
So it's
It will be a super huge
destroying
life
the
swing.
damage race.
It looks like both
So now
players
they're
are
fine.
keeping.
And Andreas will start. I see a lot of lands in his hand, but not
and
sure if
Sebstian just drew a plains, so he's able to basically cast his whole hand. He has a mountain and a plains in hand, and he has also a 2-drop. He's starting with the mage here, that has prowess, because if he needs to play a spell on turn 3, he can abuse the prowess and put on more pressure, which I like in this spot. He could also play the Unruly Mob, which is just a 1/1 and has basically no effect at this board.
yeah, the prowess creature is close to unblockable for most of Andreas creatures.
Yeah, except for the Seagraph Scab.
Since you can't be sure, is there a creature? Is there a trigger for the prowess
Yes.
coming? And so Andreas needs to have some impact on the board.
I see that he has
Turn 3 Vessel is not the best thing.
I see that he has a Apothecary Geist in his hand, which could provide 3 extra life if he sacks the vessel and therefore skips his turn. He also has a Seraph the Night and Declaration in stone in his hand, but I like passing the turn here and just creating the tokens and just to regain 3 life. Could be important in this game. But the more important turn is now for Sebstian Fiala-Ibitz, because if he has another creature, he will get probably ahead too far to catch up for Mikula. So now we see the 2 tokens, and I expect him to just play the Apothecary Geist on his main phase.
We're looking that the players will get tokens to represent the borsted,
Yeah, the spirit tokens that are flying.
because the dice are, yeah, so.
So we have them here.
The life total is, we can adjust this one too.
Yes.
It was 1,
3,
I think,
4,
4 damage.
19, yeah.
So,
And he just gained 3 life.
so it's back
Should
to
be
19.
back to 19. And Sebstian Fiala-Ibitz is still at 20. No, also at 19 now. 1 spirit attacked here.
Yeah, also 19.
There's no trick for 1 blue mana, so Sebstian Fiala-Ibitz can attack here if he wants to, and just play a combat trick.
So now our view is a little bit closer. Sebstian is missing on lands, so usually not that big of a deal because he is kind of aggressive, but still only playing 1 spell per turn.
Yeah, that restricts him a lot, because if he could play 2 spells, he could get so far ahead. But it's still fine, because Mikula is not really doing a lot at the moment.
So this is attack for 4
Yes, so he should be
with
at
the
15.
prowess trigger.
We assume that he didn't forget the trigger. And
But isn't it nice situation for Andreas too? It's not that big of a deal. He has removed in hand. He can also fetch the red mana if he draws the red card,
yes,
or get a second white source if he needs that first.
yeah. The problem now here is that we see the problem with the splash now, because of the splash he's probably playing the warped landscape, and if the warped landscape would have just been a plains, he could play 2 spells, which would really help him here, playing Declaration and a 3-drop.
Especially now the declaration is pretty good because Sebstian has no way to sacrifice the clue token
Yes.
and play another spell at the moment. So
But 2 open mana still.
it represents something.
Yes, it could be a bounce spell, it could be Jace Ingenuity, so there's a lot that could happen.
Spirit attacks again. Taking Sebstian down. And a 4th land.
So it will be interesting what he's going to do now, because he could play, if he wants to, a removal on the 2/2 spirit, but the spirit bounces itself, so playing a bounce on the spirit is probably
Not
not
the
the
best
best.
option.
It's just a small time walk probably, which is not enough at
But
this
you
spot.
lose the best removal in your deck.
Yes. Like, I would do it if I win the game, obviously, but he's not in the spot to just win.
So there's the Griff Spoon.
On the mage with prowess.
So it's
So
it's 5. I'm not really sure if Andreas should be on 14 or 15.
I think he should be at 15. he took 4 damage, went to 16, gained 3 life, went to 19, and last turn he took 4 damage
again.
from 19. That's 15. Yeah, I think he should be at 15.
So now the attack for 5. So now he should be on 10.
Yes, and we just got a confirmation he was on 15
Before.
so. And just playing the Griff Spoon is fine. There are no good blocks that Andreas could have made. And
even if there is a removal, he can replay the Griff Spoon next turn.
That's also why he played the Griff Spoon on the mage, because if the mage gets bounced, it's fine, he can just replay it, and the Griff Spoon gets replayed next turn. Ooh, he's getting aggressive. So Sebastian is taking 4 damage.
4 damage for Sebastian.
And will be at 14. Interesting what his draw was. It's not Tenacity. He's now playing Dauntless Qatar and still kinda showing a 2-mana trick, which he doesn't have.
I can imagine he would have played the trick last turn if he had one, but I'm
not sure about this, because he's playing against a red-white deck, and he could get way more by bouncing, for example, a creature in combat after blocks, because Sebastian would be inclined on playing a pump spell here. So it's reasonable to wait with the trick, but he could have played it also just to use his mana more efficiently. So there are both sides.
Or at least bounce it at the end of turn.
Yeah, correct. And Sebastian drew a 5th land.
So he's really good in the game, and even at the driver's seat at the moment.
It looks like Mikula is trying to race, kinda, but it will be interesting.
He has nice removals in hand, so
yeah, that looks like a race now for me. It will be interesting if Sebastian is now going for the kill with the Uncaged Fury. I would expect him to do this now. It's just 3, 5, 6 damage. He would be on 4. If he plays the Uncaged Fury, that's lethal. Yes, he's going for the kill. And as we know, he has no bounce spell in hand, so it's 1-0 for Sebastian.
This is game 1.
That was game 1.
And we're back after some sideboard decisions. Let's take a look at the sideboards, or the complete deck. Is there anything that the players can do?
I expect Sebastian to board out the Magmatic Chasm, as we basically saw mono flyers in this game, and Chasm is not really doing much against flyers, as we know. And he might board in the Explosive Apparatus, because all creatures that Andreas played had only 2 toughness, and it could kill a creature, which is better than having a Chasm that might be useless. And on Andreas' side, I see he has a Puncturing Light in his sideboard, which I would expect him to board in.
Yeah, and the creatures are small enough from Sebstian Fiala-Ibitz, at least those creatures we saw.
Yes.
Even if it's kind of dangerous with the pump spells.
Also
So that
expect
it could be countered rather easy. But
he has good sideboard cards against Sebastian, I would say. He also has a Drawneyard Explorer and a Manic Scribe in his sideboard, and the Jace Scrutiny, which are all very good against aggressive decks. They have a lot of toughness, which kind of force Sebastian to play pump spells.
to get rid of the
to-
blockers.
Yes. So I would expect him to ward out some of the late game and ward in more of the toughness creatures.
So
and the
what
trick.
what about cards like the Doppelgeist? Is it too hard to get the Delirium?
I don't think it's too hard to get the Delirium in Andreas' deck.
And also, I think it's still a good card if you're in the damage race,
Yes.
that you start tapping down the opponent's creatures and get in
He
for some
might
extra
be-
damage.
He might be tempted to board it in, but
Minus Gone Missing plus Puncturing Light plus Explosive Aberration minus Magnetic Trust.
Okay.
so we just got the sideboarding from the players.
They both
Sebastian
sided one card.
boarded as I expected. He boarded out the Magmatic Chasm and boarded in the Apparatus. And
Andreas boarded in
That-
the
Puncturing
Puncturing
Light
Light.
and
No
boarded.
surprise here.
That's also no surprise, but I'm more surprised about boarding out Gone Missing and not boarding in more cards. I would have expected him to board in at least a few more cards
To fight the
to fight the
aggressive,
aggression. Yes, just to fight the aggression here.
So, obviously Andreas is fine with his starting 7, and it looks like Sebastian is going to have a mulligan. So let's have a look. Are these better now?
Looks
There's
better. He has
mountains and plains, but I think a lot of mountains and plains.
yes.
So
He has
2
4
of each,
lands.
and
Not a very good hand for Sebastian, but he's on the draw and already
and
took a
he
mulligan.
keeps on the top. It's although I don't like it, so I don't like taking mulligans, and but it's
I think he has
Oh.
to keep his 6 because he's able to cast
Every
every spell in his deck with those 4 lands.
and with the possibility of casting 2 spells on turn 4.
Yes. Here we see the Captain, which is a very strong card if it flips. Obviously just the 2-drop is also good, but the flip side just can win on its own by making tokens. Sebastian is at 18 now from the attack. And Mikula plays
And
a
the spirit.
Geist. So I like this attack here. He can just force through 1 damage because Andreas won't be blocking here, I think.
Yeah, he showed the removals of pump
yes.
spells. It's has no upside to block here. The 1 damage doesn't do anything for Andreas.
Also, especially you're attacking back. You're
Yeah.
racing the aggressive deck with more power than the aggressive deck. Yeah. And
So
now it will be hard for Sebastian
This
to come
is
back. It looks
Nice curved out for
Yes.
Andreas. He shows his mountain. So now Sebastian has to be worried about more things. He didn't see the red in game 1.
interesting. He's attacking for 2 down to 17. Delver not flipping. And only 1 more creature is needed to flip the Captain.
Which grows up to a 4/4. Is the flip side of the captain is power and toughness equal to
Creatures you
creatures
control.
you control. The removal the attack.
I think the plan that Sebastian now has is to play a creature with a lot of power and to hope to attack with that creature and Uncaged Fury plus Rush to maybe make enough damage. But it's probably
But
not going
Andreas
to
is
work.
not stopping
Yeah.
putting business on the board.
Yeah. So basically, trying to raise here won't work probably because he's now more in the jump block mode. He's facing maybe a 5/4 flying, probably a 4/4 captain because he won't forget the trigger to flip him, I guess. So
Yeah, he has a die on
on his
on
top,
his top,
yeah.
so
he will probably remember both triggers.
at least one of them.
Yeah.
So
And then attack. Yeah, I like the attack. He has to attack here. He has to hope that the Delver doesn't flip. Because if the Delver flips, he's dead anyways. And yeah. Just waiting for the attack here.
and the next. So draw.
I think they're talking about something. Yeah, he forgot to draw, I think, but it
He
doesn't
didn't draw the
matter.
card. It doesn't matter. It was
Yeah,
lethal in this situation. So
so it's on 1, and now we have the aggressive deck on the play.
they're both aggressive.
Andreas
so
can be aggressive, but Sebastian's deck is only aggressive. So being on the play here is huge.
So you see the downside of the mulligan. It was punished pretty hard.
Forgetting to draw won't be a game loss here, because I think they were just talking about
What happens?
what happens, and
after?
it was pretty obvious what's going to happen here.
After Andreas remembers both the triggers.
Yes.
So
Maybe a warm really needed, but
I think a caution would be enough because
yeah.
I don't think that they passed the upkeep after the triggers.
No,
Probably Andreas was asking Sebastian if he can do anything.
you're
tapped
tapped out,
out,
and I'm just
You're
attacking
dead
you.
out. I will just
So
attack. So the game obviously
both knew what's
what's
going
happening,
to happen.
and yeah. So
Now we are off to game 3, and hopefully no mulligans. Sebastian
it
only
looks
has one
like a
land,
mulligan for Andreas too because he has only a planes.
so both players having only one land.
Or are two planes probably, but with no, it's
No, he has
only
one
only one
planes
plane.
also. But he has 2/2 drops. And is on the draw. But I think he still
You can't
should mulligan.
keep this because if you miss out on the land drop, you're dead.
Yeah,
So
you obviously should mulligan this because, for obvious reasons, if you miss the land drop, you're not going to play Magic here. So both players are mulligan again.
this is the fifth mulligans. We had two mulligans
Yes,
game one.
and one in the
Sebastian
second.
mulligan in game two. The question about the air condition at Spielraum, it's pretty difficult with opened doors to keep the temperature at a good level. We have a kind of air condition. We have air circulation system, which works fine for those guys who remember how it was before we had it. So,
Both players drew their 6 cards and both are keeping.
and keeping the cards on the top.
Yes. So Sebastian at the moment is just mono red. He has only red spells and only mountains in his hand, which is fine for the moment, but Andreas Mikula has a rather defensive draw with 2-drop, that is 1/3. And he also has a declaration already in his hand, and a puncturing light he just drew.
So the puncturing light is the instant removal that Andreas was pretty looking for. I think it's so. For game 1 he had no instant, close to no instant interaction, and now you can also see the aggression is pretty stopped.
Yes. He's going to play a 3-drop here.
The Qatar, again, is a nice body to put in front.
So at the moment Sebastian is not really able to attack here.
So Andreas took 1 damage before
Yeah.
from the attack, just to keep that in check. Okay, so
He
no.
didn't attack, he's still at 20.
Yeah.
Because both
Didn't
players
concentrate, yeah, I
played
was
the
thinking
2-drop. Yeah. So he's playing the equipment here, making his
heirloom.
creature 3/4 vigilance for this turn because of the prowess trigger. He could attack here, which he's
Yeah.
doing.
Okay, now Andreas is missing on lands.
He's missing on lands, but he has 2 removal spells in his hand, and 1 being instant is huge here, because Sebastian is still mono red and only has 2 cards left in his hand. He could
I
also
remember
play.
at least one of them is white.
He also could play a reckless caller, but he's not. He will just keep the mana up to play
For
a
the- for
spell,
the- for the-
probably.
For the removal.
But he has to be careful with the removal, because just 1 pump spell with the correct timing is going to fizzle the puncturing light, because it says only 3 power.
It's also pretty hard because with the prowess creature, Sebastian can play the artifact like now. He can play it
Yes.
before the attack, so the puncturing light can't do anything.
Yeah, and he's just playing the puncturing light. If Sebastian has a pump spell here, it would be huge, but he doesn't. And he has only power 3 at the moment. So this worked out for Andreas. Still there is a removal.
Did
In
not
play.
equip and pass. I think he remembered because he
Yeah, I think
Too
he's
late.
going. He might be inclined on just doing the 2 damage to the Qatar end of turn. It costs 3 mana.
Yeah.
Which could be better than equipping in this spot. Also, equipping only costs 2 mana.
Now the situation, the declaration in stone is not that good because, in my opinion, because Sebastian is color screwed, the clue give him the possibility of drawing an extra card. It's a pretty tough spot for Andreas, who still
I
did
agree.
not find his 4th land. But the attack now is pretty nice.
Yeah, the attack is also basically free. The Qatar is not really going to block.
And pretty unlikely to survive
Yes.
the turn anyway.
So now he is at 17.
Both players at 17.
Sebastian still no planes, but he at least drew a 2-drop he can play after combat.
Now the spirit got grilled by the artifact
At the end of turn.
at the end of turn.
Now the equip is happening, and post combat he will play a 2-drop, I guess, using his mana sufficiently. So he's taking 5 damage, going down to 12. He remembers the trigger and puts a +1/+1 counter on the creature, plays the 2-drop and passes. Another 2-drop, still no 4th land.
Yeah, this is... things are going to look grim for Andreas, because only playing one spell per turn is not that bad, but if you're leaving up mana each time, it feels unsatisfying.
But at the moment both players are basically playing only one spell per turn, so he still has enough time to catch up. He's still at 12 and also attacking, so he's not really in the driver's seat, but he has time to catch up. And he drew a plains finally.
Yeah, as long as Andreas manages to have only one creature on Sebastian's board, it's not that bad of a situation. But with the equipment, it's...
But this turn is interesting because Sebastian could play a 5-drop, or he could play the vessel and equip, or he could just equip and attack. And he decides to play the 5-drop.
And the
And
4th land.
And it's a plains, which is huge because this means he can play 2 spells. He has 2 white, 2 drops in his hand.
Yeah, this guy...
I like playing the 5-drop
big.
here because next turn Sebastian can just equip, draw a card, pass the turn, flip both creatures, and both creatures are a problem if they flipped for Andreas. But one of the 2-drops from Andreas is a captain again.
Which is likely to flip if none of his creatures dies. But so I'm not really sure if is Andreas is forced to block here.
5,
His
7,
creatures are not
9.
good at blocking.
Yes, especially they're not good at blocking a 5/4.
Either the 5/4 or the one who deals 1 damage.
Yes.
So both
He
players
drew a
heading for
pump
the
spell.
think tank.
Yes, he drew a pump spell here, and is thinking how to attack and if to attack. I think we are going to
I think
see.
no attack is no option in my...
Yes, I agree
my
to
opinion.
this. I think we are going to see an attack here soon. He's thinking whether to sack the clue or equip, I think. Because he drew the 1 mana white pump spell, it is safe to just sack the clue first and to see what you draw. What he's going to do.
Nice job.
And he drew an Uncaged Fury. So if he just equips here, he could consider passing the turn to flip the
Both
werewolf-
creatures.
both creatures, and the flip side of the 5/4 is has 6 power, and it has intimidate. No.
Is it the one where intimidate or where your attacking creatures get trampled?
No, it's yeah, it's the one where 2 creatures have to block.
Okay, yeah. It's menace.
Menace, yes, correct. It has menace.
So I like the attack here anyway because Andreas has to do something
Yes. And
because he won't win the game on the backswing if nothing special happens. He's missing 1 damage, isn't it?
Who?
If
Andreas?
no, no worries. The werewolf has vigilance, so he has a
Yeah.
blocker.
Yeah,
And
the
yes,
attack is also fine because you force your opponent to make a block, and as Sebastian drew the 1 mana white pump spell, the blocks are not going to be great for Andreas, I would say.
and checking the backside.
Checking the backside if it's worth not blocking and flipping. If he doesn't block here, he takes 7-9 damage, drops down to 3, so he could die to a fiery temper that you saw in game 1. And only does 12 damage, no, 11 damage on the backswing, which is not enough.
So now
So
it's
we're
getting
s-
interesting.
Yeah, so we see some blocks. At the moment, the T1 is trading with the Scarp because of the trigger. And the pump spell is enough here to let the 5/4 survive. And it creates a token because he owns an equipment, which is a nice bonus here.
Sebastian pointed out.
So this attack was really good for Sebastian. He just traded for the whole board of Andreas, basically, leaving him with only the captain. He drew a land for his turn, has 2 cards in his hand. One of them is the Reckless Scholar, and the second one is the Stitchwing Scarp.
The Reckless Call is a nice card, but I'm not sure if in this situation you're kind of forced to jump it, block pretty soon.
Yes. And
So the looter,
the looter
if
doesn't help
if
here.
you consider how Andreas was forced by himself to keep the captain, it's probably not a good situation.
Yes. Yeah, equipping the other human and attacking with both again is great. He drew a Uncaged Fury last turn, so there is basically not a single good block that Andreas could make, except for blocking and having a combat trick, which he doesn't, as we know.
It's hard because not blocking isn't a good
Yeah,
option either.
Yeah,
And he's shaking his head.
yeah, he knows what's going to happen.
Keeping the Scholar,
Yeah,
taking 5 damage.
equipping and passing.
And playing the Vessel.
Playing the vessel, yeah. Draw is a land. He doesn't have decent Up and the Sinful in his deck,
Ah, this was a nice.
but he drew
This
Bound.
was pretty nice. And now it's not yet back in the game because the Vessel with the
Yeah.
equipment will do its damage on its own.
But it's a decent start at getting back into
Yes.
the game.
Catching some breath, you have the Looter. You're not in immediate pressure of getting
Killed.
more damage.
Yeah. So he drew another land. I think it's the foil planes we saw during deck building.
The main reason to play white. Yeah, it's the foil
S-
planes.
So he's
Passing the
going to pass
turn
the turn.
to sacrifice the Vessel.
Angelic Perch. Usually a nice draw, but in this situation kinda underwhelming because you can't exile a token because it's sorcery speed and he can make the tokens at
Yeah, you
the
can
end of
get rid
turn.
of the equipment, but I'm not sure if the impact is big enough for that.
I agree to this. I think I would rather play
I
Some-
would loot probably.
probably start by looting.
So you take 3 damage next turn. This is the Jarrow's masterpiece. Or
No,
was this-
that's
no,
th-
this
no. That's the Stitchwing Scarp, the 3/1
Oh, yeah.
flying that returns if you discard 2 cards. That was also a good draw, I would say. A 3-drop that gets bigger if you control an equipment, which he has. So every creature here is good, obviously. He's looting during combat, draws an Apothecary Geist. But the problem is that the Scarb is not a Geist, not a Spirit, so he won't get the bonus of 3 life here. And should block.
But it's
He's only 1 mana up, so the problem is that Sebastian knows he has no trick for sure. Especially since he used already his Looter, so there is no bound spell with Madness. So
taking
if he,
1 damage.
if he doesn't block, he just dies to the Uncaged Fury here.
And here's a 3 mana 2/3, but gets a bonus if you control an equipment.
+1/+0, so it's a 3/3 at the moment. He's thinking about looting here.
And this
He discarded
1/1
the
flying spirits with the equipment are really hurting.
yes, especially yeah, he has a Geist that can block the Spirit. And Sebastian won't use his Uncaged Fury on the Spirit because it's not really getting way ahead here by trading 1 for 1. But he just drew a removal for the Geist and is maybe going for the kill here. Depends on the activation from Mikula, because he could still discard just to the wind, the bounce spell with Madness.
He's
And
forced to block here,
Yes.
not to take lethal.
Yeah.
So
Okay, and this should be game, I guess. If he's playing the Fury, yes, he's playing the Fury. And that's exactly 6 damage. And here's the handshake.
So congratulations to Sebstian Fiala-Ibitz. It was a tough match.
Yes, especially
were
since he mulligans.
Many
3 times.
mulligans. So 1 mulligan each game for Sebastian. Andreas lost the two games where he had to take a mulligan. And there's still 8 minutes left in the clock. Just have a quick back to the booth. So welcome back to the booth. We saw the deck from Sebstian Fiala-Ibitz. Did it turn out the way you thought that the deck should work?
Yes, he tried to be aggressive with his creature and playing the pump spells to get ahead on the board. So
Or
basically,
even kill
or
for the
even kill, like, which means that he played his pump spells in a way you could play a removal spell. But he didn't, he just won by pumping his creatures. Interestingly enough, I also talked to him after deck building, because we saw him switching back to black all the time. And he was considering playing black because he thought that the combo of Call the Bloodline and the Skeleton
The
is
skeleton
just
that
super
returns.
strong in sealed. But he decided against, because pairing the aggressive part of his deck with and control part of the deck won't work out usually. Also, he left.
Did you ask him about the green?
Yes, also, yeah, correct. I also asked him about the green because we saw 2 rapid bites and a few 2 drops. But he had to decide against green because he didn't have enough creatures. If he played green, he would have would have ended up with, I think, 12 creatures,
Okay.
which is not enough for an aggressive deck. Although the creatures are good and the spells also.
Okay, so it's around 8 minutes left until the end of round. I would say we're good so far. The next round, if my informations are correct, will be hosted by Matej Satelkai and Oliver Polak-Rothman. I hope you enjoyed us so far. I'm not sure if we will be back here again, if I'm with
We
you,
might have
or
a comeback.
probably with Valentin Makler. I don't know what's the plan so far. And thanks for watching, and see you back soon.